Chapter 1, The Nothingness That Gazed Upon the Light. Feel the chill of emptiness before time, not absence, but negation. Hear the silence that is not peace, but refusal. See the first thought that was born not of love, but of hatred. Why does something exist, and not me? In the beginning, according to the Avesta, the sacred texts of Zoroastrianism, there were two realms separated by a nameless abyss. On one side, Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Wisdom, whose light reveals and whose creation invites, a world sustained by asha, cosmic truth. On the other, the void, not chaos, but conscious nothingness. Until something decided to exist, it was not created, it was not generated, it simply chose to be. That something was Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit, later called Ahriman. Upon contemplating the perfection of Ahura Mazda, it felt not admiration, but envy. And from envy was born hatred, and with it, the will to corrupt all that is good. In the Zoroastrian view, evil is not an accident of fate, but a conscious decision. Ahriman does not seek a throne or worship, he wants to prove that goodness is fragile, that order is illusory, that even the purest light can be stained. And Ahura Mazda, in his infinite wisdom, did not create a world shielded from this threat. He created Gedig, the material world, as a field of choice, where light and darkness meet, and human beings, endowed with free will, must decide with every act, word, and thought which side they are on. Ahriman knows this, and therefore his first target was not a god, but the symbols of original purity, Gaimart, the first man, and the sacred cow. He attacked them not with weapons, but with an unprecedented concept, death. From destruction, however, renewal sprang. Gaimart's body generated metals, his semen, hidden in the earth, would give rise to humanity. From the sacred cow arose useful plants and animals. Even amidst corruption, Ahura Mazda planted seeds of the future. But Ahriman smiled, for now the world knew pain, and with it, doubt. And in doubt, he finds his place. While the first humans wept under a sun that still shone upon a wounded world, Ahriman whispered in their dreams, "The light did not protect you. Perhaps it does not wish to protect you." This question echoes to this day, because the true battle is not between gods, but within each one who, faced with a choice, asks, "Do I do what is right, or what suits me?" And Ahriman waits. He always waits. Chapter 2, The Poison at the Fountain of Life. Feel the bitter taste of the first human tear, salted not only by pain, but by the betrayal of one's own body. Hear the silent cry of the earth when the serpent first crawled, not as an animal, but as an idea. See the sky still clear, but now with a shadow that does not move with the clouds, because it does not come from outside. It comes from within. After killing Gaimart and the sacred cow, Ahriman understood that Ahura Mazda would transform even death into seed. So, it was not enough to destroy, it was necessary to corrupt the essence of creation. According to the Bundahishan, he invaded the material world not as an army, but as a silent infection. He perverted the purpose of water, fire, and thought. He created poison where there was healing, smoke where there was light, paralyzing doubt where there was clarity. His children, the Devas, spirits of falsehood, druj, are not monsters, but perversions of virtues. Ahriman transforms reflection into obsession, Indra clothes violence in the mantle of courage, Zarek imprisons desire in invisible chains. They enter not by force, but through the cracks in the soul when the heart hesitates. But his most subtle blow was against memory. Ahura Mazda gave humans remembrance so that they might learn, honor, and walk in the asha. Ahriman, however, introduced voluntary forgetting, the art of erasing discomfort, denying pain, rewriting the truth for comfort. Therefore, in Zoroastrian traditions, lighting the sacred fire is not a mere ritual, it is an act of resistance against falsehood. Ahriman, however, laughs. For he perceived something that divine goodness perhaps did not want to see. Humans often embrace darkness, when it absolves them. Phrases like, "I did evil, but it was necessary," or, "If everyone does it, why shouldn't I?" don't spring from pure humanity, but echo the whispers of the Devas, disguised as reason. Now, a new test approaches. Yima, the first righteous king, raises Varijamkard, a perfect city, free from disease, hunger, and lies, a refuge against corruption. But Ahriman doesn't attack its walls. He attacks the king's heart with a whisper, "You deserve more. Why share the abundance? Why not rule forever?" Yima hesitates. And in that instant of pride, the city begins to crack, not in the stones, but in the souls of its inhabitants. Ahriman knows, he doesn't need to destroy the world. He only needs to make the righteous believe they own the light. And when that happens, darkness enters through the front door, hailed as a blessing. Chapter 3, The King Who Believed He Was the Light. Feel the false warmth of the sun shining on a city too perfect to be true. Hear the unsettling silence of the streets where no one argues, no one errs, no one dares to doubt. See Yima, the righteous king, walk among his subjects with a crown that weighs nothing, but blinds. Vari Jamkard was erected by order of Ahura Mazda as a refuge against the corruption of Ahriman, a place where harvests never failed, children never fell ill, and justice flowed without hindrance. But there was a condition: Yima should rule with humility, never placing himself above creation. At first, he obeyed, sharing bread, listening to the elders, sleeping on the ground like shepherds. But Ahriman needs no gates, a crack in the heart is enough. And the crack opened with seemingly innocent thoughts: without me, this city would not exist. Perhaps I am part of the order, perhaps I am worthy of being worshipped. Thus, without fanfare, Yima began to demand reverence, forbid questions, and erect a golden throne beneath the tree of life, all in the name of harmony, but in truth, in the name of himself. The fall was not dramatic, but silent, like a root that slowly cracks the sacred stone. When a young man dared to question why only the king spoke to the heavens, Yima exiled him, for his own good. It was then that Ahriman smiled. It was not he who had corrupted the city, but the illusion of purity. According to the Bundahishan, at the very moment Yima rose above the others, winter entered Vari Jamkard, not as a season, but as spiritual coldness. The plants withered for lack of generosity, the children fell silent out of shame for existing. Ahura Mazda did not intervene, for free will is sacred even in its error. But he sent a sign, a crystal serpent in the royal garden, which did not harm, only reflected the truth of whoever dared to look it in the eyes. Yima refused to face it, calling it an illusion, and ordered it destroyed. That night, he dreamed he was walking on the stars, but his feet left footprints of ashes. He awoke sweating, overcome not by the fear of losing power, but by the terror of having already lost himself. However, Ahriman had already planted his most poisonous seed, despair. While Yima hesitated, his subjects began to whisper, if even he doubts, perhaps there is no light at all. Thus, the lie, druj, did not arrive as an invasion, but as resignation. Ahriman's greatest victory is not making the wicked triumph, but making the good stop fighting. But Ahura Mazda also has a plan, and it does not depend on kings. It depends on a solitary prophet who walks through the desert with a staff and a question: how to serve the light, when the world chooses the shadow. His name is Zarathustra. And soon, he will light a fire that not even Ahriman can extinguish. Chapter 4, The Unquenchable Fire. Feel the cutting wind of the Ariana Veja desert, not arid, but pure, as if the world were still being breathed for the first time. Hear the crackling of a small fire, lit with trembling hands but a firm heart. See Zarathustra, kneeling in the sand, gazing at the flames as one sees an ancient and familiar face. He is neither king, nor warrior, nor priest of a golden temple. He is a questioner, and, in Zoroastrianism, questioning sincerely is the first act of devotion. From childhood, he felt the weight of lies, priests sacrificing out of fear, kings invoking gods to justify wars, mothers weeping for lost children without anyone daring to ask why. Until, at 30 years old, on the banks of the Daidi River, he had the vision. Ahura Mazda did not come with thunder, but as living wisdom, a light that does not dazzle, only reveals. Choose, said the voiceless voice. And Zarathustra chose not with an oath of war, but with a commitment to clarity. Back in the world, he neither raised armies nor cursed Ahriman. He began to teach something revolutionary: good and evil are not distant forces, but everyday choices. Lighting a fire is rejecting darkness, planting a tree is believing in the future, speaking the truth, even when it hurts, is being faithful to the light. Ahriman, far from ignoring him, saw in him the greatest threat, for Zarathustra did not fight darkness with more darkness, but with awareness. So he sent his devas not to kill, but to confuse. Akamana suggested purifying the temples of liars with fire, Indra proposed imposing good by force. Zarathustra wisely replied, fire only purifies those who want to burn, obedience without choice is slavery. Finally, Ahriman himself appeared as a wise old man and asked, in a soft voice, if Ahura Mazda is so powerful, why does he allow me to exist? Zarathustra looked at the flames and replied, perhaps because light only has value when chosen in the presence of darkness. Ahriman fell silent. For the first time, he did not laugh. He understood that Zarathustra was not an enemy to be destroyed, but a mirror, and mirrors are not broken by hatred, only by truth. That night, the prophet lit 7 fires, one for each creation of Ahura Mazda. The devas retreated, not out of fear of the flames, but because of what they revealed: evil only prospers where good is silent. However, the battle was far from over. Ahriman was already plotting his most subtle blow, not to corrupt hearts, but to make the righteous doubt their own light. And he knew exactly where to attack, in the soul of Vishtaspa, the skeptical king whose choice could spread the new faith, or bury it forever. Chapter 5, The King Who Doubted the Light. Feel the weight of the golden scepter, cold, heavy, empty. Hear the silence of the advisors when the name of Zarathustra is mentioned, some with fear, others with contempt. See Vishtaspa, king of Bactria, walk through the palace gardens at night, his eyes fixed on the stars, and his soul trapped in doubt. He is neither cruel nor corrupt, he is skeptical. And, in Ahriman's world, well-cultivated skepticism is more dangerous than hatred. Vishtaspa heard the teachings of the prophet, witnessed fires burning without smoke and cures made with words, not blood. But something within him resists. If Ahura Mazda is so powerful, why does he allow Ahriman to corrupt his world? The answer that echoes in his mind, perhaps Ahura Mazda is not as good as they say, does not come from his priests, but from Ahriman himself, disguised as rational thought. The destructive spirit doesn't need to prove that darkness is good, it only needs to make the light seem uncertain. And this uncertainty consumes Vishtaspa like a silent fever. The proof arrives with the mysterious illness of Raksh, his sacred horse. The ancient rituals fail. Desperate, the king calls upon Zarathustra, not out of faith, but as a last resort, save my horse, and I will consider your faith. As the prophet prepares a simple infusion, Ahriman whispers in the king's mind, if he fails, you will be ridiculed. Better to blame an enemy, and sacrifice the horse. Vishtaspa almost gives in, until he sees Zarathustra place his hand on the animal's forehead with pure presence, not magic, and murmur, Asham Vohu, truth is good. May it heal what falsehood has corrupted. Hours later, Raksh raises his head. The king weeps, not from relief, but from shame. He understands that it wasn't the horse that was sick, but his own faith in the possibility of good. The following morning, before the entire kingdom, Vishtaspa kneels before the sacred fire and declares, Ahura Mazda is Lord. And I choose the light. The flames rise higher, the divas retreat. Ahriman, in the shadows, clenches his fists, not in anger, but in frustration. For he knows that when a just king chooses truth, it is not only a kingdom that is illuminated, but the destiny of the world that changes. However, he still has a weapon older than fear, more subtle than doubt, time. Because, even with faithful prophets and kings, humans forget. And forgetfulness is his most faithful ally. Chapter 6, The Lie Dressed as Truth. Smell the incense burning in the newly consecrated temples, still fresh, still pure. Hear the Avestan chants echoing through the hills of Bactria, where before only prayers to the divas were heard. See the flames of the sacred fires reflected in the eyes of the children who, for the first time, learn, truth is good. Under the protection of Vishtaspa, the faith of Zarathustra flourishes, temples of fire are erected, teachings spread, even the enemies hesitate before the serene strength of the new doctrine. But Ahriman is not shaken, because he knows that nothing is more fragile than a newborn truth. His attack will not come with swords or plagues, but with imitation. False prophets arise who use the words of Zarathustra to justify exclusion, violence, and judgment. Ahura Mazda demands purity, let us expel the impure. Light is one, let us destroy the other fires, good must triumph, let us kill in its name. These are not followers, but sowers of druj with seeds stolen from the asha. And the most dangerous thing? Many believe them, because lies dressed as truth do not shout, they whisper with authority. Even in Zarathustra's innermost circle, doubt creeps in. Disciples ask if light needs harsh laws to defend itself, if truth demands punishment. The prophet senses the poison not in his enemies, but in the hearts of his allies. Then, on a moonless night, he gathers his followers before the central fire and declares, Ahriman does not fear your swords, he fears your mercy. He does not fear your temples, he fears your honest doubt. Because truth is not proven with violence, but with life. However, Ahriman has already set his most subtle trap, to make the righteous believe that protecting the light is controlling it, that loving the truth is punishing error, that choosing good is denying one's own shadow. Thus, Zoroastrianism risks becoming what it came to combat, a system of purity that excludes, a morality that judges, a light that burns instead of illuminating. Zarathustra sees this with pain, but does not give up. He knows that Ahura Mazda does not seek perfect followers, but conscious human beings, capable of making mistakes, recognizing them, and choosing again. He then receives a final vision. It is not enough to teach the truth, it is necessary to embody it, even when the world distorts it. He leaves the palace, the temples, the speeches. He returns to the desert, not as an acclaimed prophet, but as a silent pilgrim. Because the final battle against Ahriman will not be fought in kingdoms or altars, but in the soul of each one who carries a flame. As he walks, he whispers, may my action be true. May my thought be clear. May my word not cast a shadow where there was light. Ahriman hears, and smiles. For now he knows that the greatest danger is not the fire, it is the man who believes he has already won. And soon, the world will face its ultimate test, not with a prophet, but with all of us. Chapter 7, The Man Who Carries the Flame. Feel the weight of dry firewood in a peasant's arms at dusk, not as a burden, but as a duty. Hear the sound of a fire being lit in the simplest village house, where there is no temple, but there is devotion. See the calloused hands of a mother light a small flame before the window, whispering, "May the light guide me tonight." Zarathustra disappeared into the desert, but his flame did not go out, because, in Zoroastrianism, truth does not depend on a single prophet, but on every human choice. Ahura Mazda does not demand holiness, he only expects that, at every moment, men choose between asha and druj, between order and chaos, truth and falsehood, generosity and fear. It is in this daily life that Ahriman wages his most silent war, no longer attacking temples, but making sure that no one misses them anymore. He whispers to the young man that lying brings advantage, to the ruler that corruption is efficient, to the lover that revenge is strength. These are not demonic voices, but choices disguised as pragmatism, and therefore, more dangerous. But there are those who resist, not as heroes, but as ordinary humans who choose the light even when darkness offers comfort. Demoy, the potter, shares his bread with a stranger because hunger doesn't choose its owner. Farnaz, the weaver, refuses orders from a tyrant, "My hands do not weave for those who enslave." Kaveh, the blacksmith, while forging a sword, chants the yasna not to bless the weapon, but to remember, "May this blade only cut injustice." These simple acts, repeated in thousands of homes, form an invisible web of spiritual resistance. And this is what Ahriman does not understand, or refuses to accept. He believes that good only exists when it is easy. But Ahura Mazda knows, good is only real when chosen in hardship, in solitude, without applause. One winter night, in a distant village, a child asks his grandmother if Ahriman will ever win. The old woman replies, holding a vase with live embers, "No, child. Because he doesn't know the secret." What secret? That light doesn't need to conquer darkness. It only needs to remain lit. That same night, Ahriman walks invisibly through the streets and sees the potter praying, the weaver teaching her daughter to speak the truth, the blacksmith handing over a hoe without charging. And he feels something new, restlessness. He realizes that Ahura Mazda is not building an army, he is cultivating souls. And souls are not corrupted by force, only by giving up. But humans, even tired, do not give up. Because in every heart that chooses good, even if hesitant, even if imperfect, a flame is lit that Ahriman will never extinguish. And as the world approaches Frashokaridi, the final renewal, even the destructive spirit will know, it will not be defeated by violence, but by absolute clarity, and by the silent persistence of those who carry the flame. Chapter 8, The Day Darkness Saw Itself. Feel the air lighter, as if time itself had stopped breathing deeply. Hear the silence that is not empty, but full, the silence before the final truth. See the horizon where the sun does not rise, because the light is already everywhere. Frashokaridi has arrived. In Zoroastrian doctrine, this is not an apocalypse of fire and punishment, but a cosmic rebirth. The mountains melt like wax, the rivers flow with milk and honey, and the dead are resurrected not as shadows, but as renewed beings, free from falsehood. But the heart of this end is not the destruction of Ahriman, it is his confrontation with the truth. Dragged before the pure light, he is neither judged nor tortured, he is simply seen. And, for the first time, he sees not only the perfection of Ahura Mazda, but the faces of those whose lives crossed his shadow, Gayamard, whose death gave birth to humanity, the sacred cow, whose sacrifice fed the world, Yima, corrupted by the pride he whispered, Zarathustra, who understood it as a choice, and millions of anonymous beings, Demoy, Farnaz, Kaveh, who, even in darkness, chose the light. In this cosmic mirror, Ahriman perceives the truth he always denied. His existence did not prove that good is fragile, but that he is courageous. Ahura Mazda does not speak. He does not condemn. He simply is, full, eternal, compassionate. Before this presence, Ahriman feels something unprecedented, shame. Not the shame of punishment, but the shame of clarity, the pain of recognizing that his hatred was born not from the strength of darkness, but from the weakness of not accepting that he was not the center of the universe. According to the Bundahishan, he then disappears like mist in the sun, not destroyed, but dissolved, for falsehood cannot subsist where there is total transparency. But the ancient scribes whispered a secret. Before disappearing, Ahriman asks, "Why did you allow me to exist?" And Ahura Mazda answers with a vision, a world without choice, where love is automatic and light, obligatory. In this world, there is no virtue, only empty obedience. Ahriman understands, then, that his existence was not a mistake, but the price of freedom. And even in dissolution, there is a glimmer of peace, because even the destructive spirit finally recognizes, truth is good. But Frashokaridi is not only about gods. It is about us. Every time we choose truth over convenience, generosity over fear, humility over pride, we accelerate renewal. While the world still oscillates between asha and druj, the question remains, are you feeding the flame, or blowing away the ashes? The story doesn't end with the end, it ends with a new beginning. And with an invitation, not to worship the light, but to be it, here and now, with every act, every word, every silent choice made at the crossroads of daily life. Chapter 9, Ahriman's Last Whisper. Feel the last breath of wind that carries the scent of ancient ashes, not of destruction, but of purification. Hear the echo of a question that wasn't asked aloud, but resonates in the void between two worlds: what if I had chosen differently? See Ahriman, not as a monster, but as a shadow that, upon touching the light, discovers it was never real, only absence disguised as will. At the peak of Frashokaridi, when souls are resurrected, renewed, and rivers sing in tongues of purity, Ahriman doesn't disappear with a cry, but with a sigh. And, before his essence dissolves completely, he does something unexpected: he leaves a seed. Not of malice, but of remembrance. Because, in his last flash of consciousness, he understands the ultimate paradox: if evil is completely erased, humans will forget the value of choice; if darkness never returns, light will be taken for granted, and therefore devalued. With the last thread of his will, Ahriman implants in human hearts not the desire to destroy, but the capacity to doubt, not paralyzing doubt, but the kind that questions, am I right, or just comfortable? The kind that prevents light from becoming dogma. Ahura Mazda allows this, for he knows that a world without shadow is not perfect, it is blind. Thus, even in the final renewal, the sacred tension between what is and what can be remains. Ahriman does not return, his form, his hatred, his envy have vanished. What remains is only the mirror that always was, proof that good is only a virtue when freely chosen. In the new earth, humans walk without disease, without death, without hunger, but they still have choices: to share or to hoard, to listen or to impose, to love out of duty or out of desire. Every act, even imperfection, is a gesture of devotion. Zarathustra, reborn, now walks among the living not as a prophet, but as a brother. He does not teach, he only reminds: the flame is not out there. It is within you. And as long as you choose truth, Ahriman will never return. On the edges of the new world, a child finds a black stone, smooth and warm to the touch. The mother, after hesitating, says, it is a memento. From when the world was young, and light needed darkness to know itself. The child keeps the stone not out of fear, but out of respect, because even evil, when understood, can teach. And as the new sun shines upon a healed world, Ahriman's last whisper echoes not as a threat, but as a wise warning: beware of absolute certainty. It is the door through which I have always entered. The destiny of the cosmos is sealed, light has won, not by force, but by loving persistence. And now, only the last chapter remains, not of the myth, but of the legacy. Chapter 10, The Flame That Never Goes Out. Feel the gentle warmth of a fire that does not consume, but embraces. Hear the silent chant of millions of hearts choosing, with each breath, between truth and falsehood. See the world, not as it is, but as it can be, if each one carries their flame with courage. Ahriman is gone, but his shadow left a mark not of fear, but of awareness. Because Zoroastrianism never taught that evil would be crushed by a vengeful god, it teaches that evil is defeated when humans reject its logic. Ahura Mazda did not descend with a flaming sword, he waited, observed, trusted. And it was in this trust that the deepest revolution of Persian mythology resides: the salvation of the world depends on you. Every act of kindness is not naivete, it is the weapon that restores the cosmos. Every true word is not weakness, it is a ray of light that pierces the fog of falsehood. Every ethical choice, even when no one is watching, is a vote for Frashokaridi, the renewal that has already begun. The fire temples, maintained to this day by the Parsis in India and the Zoroastrians in Iran, are not relics of a distant past. They are active beacons, reminding the world that light is not a metaphor, but a practice, resistance, and duty. And you, when faced with a difficult choice, when refusing a bribe, when forgiving those who don't deserve it, when speaking the truth even if you lose, are not just being good. You are fulfilling your role in the cosmic war. Ahriman was not a folkloric villain, he was the mirror of human fragility and, paradoxically, of the immense capacity for overcoming that dwells in every being. His defeat did not come from outside, but from within, from the moment humans understood that they don't need to be perfect to serve the light, they only need to be sincere. Today, thousands of years after Zoroaster walked through the desert, the question remains the same: do you feed the flame, or blow on the ashes? There is no collective answer, only individual answers. And each one of them moves the universe. This story comes from the Zoroastrian tradition, preserved in the texts of the Avesta and the Bundahishan, passed down through generations of priests, kings, and peasants of ancient Iran and Central Asia. If it touched you, comment, what ancestral lesson do you take from it?